came along. CEOs were walking into the senior management executive leadership meetings and saying, I need cloud. Well, what does that mean? And what does it mean to lay down a cloud? And what are all of the restrictions and opportunities and advantages of laying down cloud? It's just another one of those things right now where everybody is getting very, very excited about, because everything in the media is talking about ChatGPT, ChatGPT-4, what's coming down the road. But they really don't know, again, what that really means for their companies. People launched down the road, and all of a sudden they decided, well, we need policies. How do we put policies in place? And who decides where those policies come from? Do they come from HR? Do they come from legal? And what type of risks are involved when we get involved in all that? Just like you talked about with the hallucinations. I mean, there's so many things that will go on that will create new and additional levels and categories of risks that companies haven't thought about before. For a long time, there were certain risks that every company knew about: operational risks, environmental risks, financial risks, those type of things that they understood and they could count on. This is something new for them. So they're all launching off into this mode where everybody's trying to talk to each other. Everybody's trying to learn from each other. In fact, the panel discussion we did a month or so ago, we had a 20-minute presentation that we scheduled for a 10-minute Q&A afterwards. The Q&A lasted an hour. It could have lasted an hour and a half, because everybody was asking, how are you handling policy? How are you handling the ethics? How are you handling all this peripheral stuff around it? Because companies don't want to and don't understand what the risks are out there, and they don't want to assume the risk without understanding what the risks are. So it's very dangerous right now to launch off into that. And that's why a lot of the companies are tiptoeing through that. Good question, though, Neil. I mean, this is, again, real life stuff. It's fun to read about all of this, and it's fun to read about the advances. I watched 60 Minutes last night, and there was somebody on there on 60 Minutes talking about the dangers of AI right now, and the fact that, because he was one of the creators of ChatGPT, he thought we're getting very close to the intelligence being having reasoning and understanding, and not sentient, but also almost getting to that point where it really does understand what you're talking about. And that was scary to him. So all of these companies are hearing that also and really trying to put some brakes on it right now. But it's a good field to launch off into. It's the future of everything. I can tell you that, absolutely. Almost everything that we are looking at, again, people are talking about that convergence point. What are we going to be able to tee ourselves up for 3 years out? And again, it goes back to creating a data environment today that allows them to go ahead and be structured for what's going on in the next couple of years. Think about it this way. Most companies right now have grown from organic growth and acquisition, okay? Most banks have grown from acquisition. They kept their data warehouses intact. So they may have 6 or 7 data warehouses scattered throughout the bank that are just linked together by a quilt. All this thread, all this spaghetti going back and forth, and they don't have golden copies of their data. So they're still struggling to get back to a point where they have a 360-degree view of their client base in a single point of data. To tee themselves up for the future convergence, they have to go back and re-architect all of that right now so that they can accept this. If you think about what else is taking place right now, and everybody's talking about moving from 5G to 6G already. They're talking about Wi-Fi 6. They're talking about Internet of Things, Industry 4.0. They're talking about wearables. They're talking about sensors on everything. And think about the amount of data that's going to be collected when all of those things come about in a couple of years. Not only will there be another explosion of data headed into companies, but the pipes, the 6G pipes, are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's going to allow for real-time transfer of data into companies very, very quickly. And if they can't take that and ingest all of that information in a way that allows them to reduce their cost to serve and improve their time to market, they're going to be non-competitive. So right now, they need to tee up everything that allows them 4 years down the road to be competitive somewhere along the way. So that's what they're trying to do right now. That's what we're all looking at right now, to tee that data environment up for the acceptance of what's coming down the road. More questions?
I have a question, but it's more on a human factor training, that sort of thing. Just as you explain the possibilities of more change and greater data, I am concerned that, you know, we've been taught to look at Google it, whatever questions you have, whatever problems you're encountering. And I know we have all kinds of schools out there, some for profit, some for nonprofit, like Code Louisville. And we're taking students and we're teaching them as much as we can. And some of us are employed that came from Code Louisville in tech, but no one really has time to really work with a newbie and really give us enough of a background, like for what you're sharing, Joe. I'm very impressed that you're sharing that with us because, you know, everybody's so eager to go get that tech job, right? And change careers and whatever else and be successful. Are we gonna go into jobs? And obviously the industry, all the tech industry is eager to hire us, eager to hire more people. But we're coming in with a deficit of not knowing the historical of this. And so we're going to be jumping into learning more sophisticated tools and all this, and we are forgetting that there is the theory and then the history and the growth. And so I am quite concerned overall, not just about this, but overall, every company in a hurry to hire, every new hire in a hurry to be hired. And we continue in companies to band-aid things to make it work and to produce something so that we can call it it's done and we're moving on, because time is of the essence and customer wants results and bosses wants results and we want a paycheck. And can you see my whole distress? So the question to you is like, what do you hear out there that companies are really doing internally, externally, and otherwise to really get good training for employees for the new technologies?
Very, very good question. And it's hard to answer that because they don't understand the new technologies well enough to be able to develop good training programs internally in companies to help employees get a career path along this. Again, you know, my best advice to all of you is to understand the history behind all this and how companies work in real life situations. Again, if I can't stress anything more to you about understanding data and the data environments that exist today and the things that companies are struggling with to re-architect their data structure so that you can do the future emerging technologies. If you were to get a degree in data engineering, if you were to get a degree in prompt engineering, which is a brand new category along the way of people who are going to continue to have jobs, it's going to be the ones who understand data, the data scientists, the data architects, the data analysts, because everything today revolves around data. You know, people used to say not long ago that data is the new currency. I think we've moved beyond that based upon some of the things that I'm seeing in the last couple of years. Data as a currency right now is table stakes for almost every company. I'll have to be honest with you. Every company finally realized, even banks, that they are just technology companies that happen to offer a product or service. And that product or service is just really a function of how the system works. I mean, think about Amazon, Google, think about Facebook. Think about Zappos shoes. Think about any bank in the world. Banks right now are just technology companies that happen to offer banking services, a checking account, savings account. They are all about taking all of that history and behavioral information that they're collecting on you on a daily basis. If you think about it, all the bank has to do is to look at your checking account. They know what kind of bills you pay. They know when you pay them, what time of the month. They know how much you pay. They know who you pay them to. If you get away from the checking account, the banks also know if you use an ATM, if you don't use an ATM, if you walk into a branch or not, if you do pay by phone, if you use any of the mobile services or laptop banking. All of these are behavioral things that they are collecting and utilizing to predictively and prescriptively sell to you the next best offer along the way. Every company's doing that. We know Amazon does that because as soon as you look at something on Amazon, every time you go to the Google, you get another pop-up somewhere along the way that's something similar to something that you just used. So it's all about data, and it's all about the use of data, and it's all about collecting data, ingesting data, harmonizing data, normalizing data, storing the data, analyzing the data, and then transporting the data out into the hands of the people who can make actionable insights onto that. Every single company's doing that, and that's not going to stop. If you want a career, get into data. If you want a career, understand machine learning and artificial intelligence. If you want a career, absolutely understand prompt engineering, because that's going to be one of the new sciences that is going to be extremely valuable once people get their arms around what's going on with ChatGPT and all these other large language models. Now, some of these things that you were talking about, we were talking about before about information and ethics and how do we validate and verify information, because all of these things are going out on the web and collecting information from known data sources. One of the best uses we've seen so far, and companies are just starting to understand this, how to use ChatGPT, is to put a ring around the inside of the company. Companies now have knowledge bases that they've had for years. They use SharePoint an awful lot for collecting information and housing information, and basically intranet services so that their internal employees can ask questions and get answers somewhere along the way. Think about this. If you had an internal, like a private virtual network, an internal ChatGPT that is just internal to a company that had all its own internal knowledge, you almost validate and verify every single bit of information that's in that database. And that company can create a knowledge base inside there that is accessible to all the employees. If you want to know how to code something that's proprietary to your company, you ask a question, you get an answer back in a normal language through a ChatGPT. If you want to know about your benefits, it gives you an answer back that's more natural than a bot, those kinds of things. That takes some of the unknowns out of the question, and some companies are starting to look at that now. So I know there's a couple more hands raised and a couple more questions.
Yeah, if we wanted to jump to Levi, and then we can move to questions in the chat from there.
Sure.
I'm not sure how much you'll be able to expand upon this, but I'm working on a personal project right now using OpenAI's API. And I've run into some of a problem with like the uncanny valley, like trying to replace like what a person would do with an AI and trying to increase the productivity, but like at a certain distance, it becomes a little bit like it would make a customer uncomfortable with it. I'm not sure if you're familiar with uncanny valley or not, but as I've heard, like I've had some people say it's kind of like dystopian kind of feeling. How do you deal with that to like make the customer feel safe, even though they are safe either way? Like, how do you make them feel safe interacting with AI?
And I can't answer a lot of the technical questions. I'll be honest with all of you. I've gotten so far away from the technical part, leading a global consulting group, that I'm more of an administrator at times than I am with the technology. So I apologize if I get deeply into it. But answering your question in general, that's a definite concern. I mean, clients from the outside looking in are very wary of those kinds of technologies. They hate bots. And I think bots in general, in those early chats, kind of alienated people. It turned them off. And I think the answer to your question is that's just still more of that. That's going to continue until we get more advances along the way. Hope that answers part of that for you. I apologize.
No, that's fine. You're okay. Thank you.
Sure.
To the questions in the chat, let me get that pulled up here. We'll kind of go from the start. Well, first, I know Neil asked earlier, is the first division, like the staffing division at VSoft, more like mid-level to temporary roles at VSoft?
No, absolutely not. And these are good questions. And again, I want to focus on real life things for all of you. VSoft does a whole host of things all the way through from temporary to executive positions.
Mm-hmm.
So there are permanent placements, there are temporary placements, there are staff augmentation. It really all depends. And we're looking at resumes all the time, and we have an extremely good reputation for being able to place people in positions and place people in positions very, very quickly. We have a big demand in our customer base for people with defined skill sets, very good skill sets in technology. So if you are interested in any kind of position like that and you're having trouble or want to reach out to me that I can get you plugged in, absolutely, please do that.
Definitely, yeah. And I know we are Shelby, who
Yes.
runs a team of recruiters here in Louisville. Her and I have been in talks about how we can potentially plan something, potentially an in-person event with her recruiters, so we can get you all connected into that community. So
Absolutely. And I'm in the process
definitely.
right now of resurrecting a relationship we had with the University of Louisville, with their business administration area with Dr. Jeff Guan, who was the keynote speaker at our last panel discussion, and some of his direct reports who are right in the AI area. And we're talking about doing hackathons with them. We're talking about internships with those organizations. We're talking about joint, academic kind of innovation centers that we can do between our two buildings. A lot of exciting things coming out of that. And we're early in the talks of that. But in the past, I have formed relationships with universities like Princeton, who have a specialized AI department, Carnegie Mellon University, which has a whole unit now also revolving around AI. It's good to get the academia married with the real life business side of it.
Definitely, yeah. Mary Silverthorne asked, how likely you think it is that AI will replace web developers? And I think, that question, is valid across the board. I mean, I was a recruiter at my last job, and there was a lot of conversation about will AI replace recruitment, that kind of thing. So if you want to just address that in the workforce a little bit, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it's really funny. This came up a while ago too, and let me just give you a story. Okay, I'll tell you a story behind all this, and I'll answer the question. A couple of weeks ago, I was on a car rally. I do a lot of car things in Pittsburgh, and it was a 5-garage rally, it was called. So we went from garage to garage to garage to garage at the end, and we had a big party at the end of the day. But the second garage we went to was behind a host of 4 or 5 cars. You walked into this other room, and the guy had a huge HO train set up, and all around the room were pieces and parts of amusement parks. Roller coaster seats, flying saucer seats, all of that kind of thing. But in the corners of the room, he had 4 calliopes. And calliopes are the machines that are in the merry-go-rounds. If you go to an amusement park, you get on a merry-go-round. There are these machines that were built back in the early 1900s, maybe 1920s. And everybody was totally amused by those. He would turn them on and we would walk around. We'd listen to another one. Some of them had violins. Some of them had horns. All of them had drums. All of them had pianos. And I walked around at the end of the garage, and I said to these people, you realize that these are robots. And they thought, oh my God, 100 years ago, we had robots that were playing music. And I said to them, and I thought about that, people were worried about robots taking over the world, taking over all of our jobs, technology taking over all of our jobs. But I said to them, musicians still have jobs today. They're still playing music. They're still taking music lessons. There's still bands that are playing out there, and there's still live music. So technology never really replaced, but there's always another way that was another path that found out to make things easier for all of us. When typewriters came out, people moved to typewriters. When a carbon copy paper moved out and Word 2 came in, nobody lost their jobs because of this. I really don't think that intelligence is going to replace people who are doing certain things. Intelligence is really meant to speed things up and to accommodate people. Telephones accommodate people. Typewriters accommodated people. Word documents accommodated people. Yet people still have jobs. I think what it's going to do is accelerate the end product. It might take you, 5 days now to build a website, but with the technology and knowing how to use the technology, it may take a couple of hours. So you may be able to be building 5 websites, in a period of 5 days instead of one website in a period of 5 days. I think it's going to enable people to do more and to do more quickly and with less errors. There are some jobs that I think may go away and be replaced by this, and that's probably not a bad thing. But I don't think it's going to happen on the scale that everybody's worried about it happening. That's my personal opinion. Good question, though. And I hope the story helped.
Yeah, it's great. Good context. Matthew Bruckner asked, you mentioned your company does a lot of data analysis work. What is the biggest impact of AI on that particular field?
I think it's the other way around. I think it's data analysis is going to have a bigger impact on the artificial intelligence world, as I mentioned before. Because again, I'm talking to a number of banks right now who are considering AI, and again, they have to get their arms around where their data lives, how it lives, who has the data, who's curating all of this data. So many questions for them to ask right now that will tee them up for successful implementations of artificial intelligence and machine learning in the future. So I think it's going to flow in that direction and not the other.
Great. And then Neil, did you already address this when you came off mute? What were you referring to when you asked, can you do a quick breakdown of how these GPT models work?
Yeah, I was I was wanting to know like how they actually work. Like I think I have a vague idea that they just like take the data that you feed into it and break it all up and then like guess the next 3 to 5 letters in the thing, but I don't know for sure. That's why I wanted to ask for a breakdown of it.
Yeah, again, I'm not that technical, but from my understanding of it, that's exactly what it does. It predicts the next best. Even to a degree where you ask it to, again, write a story and you give it a prompt and you give it, 10 words. It'll go back and predict everything in between.
And then I guess the next question that I asked is like really related to that, which was like, how I know like obviously the data sets are important, but like does more correct data equal more correct responses, or does it not really work like that?
No, it takes whatever you get it and will generate with that. However, again, getting back to the ethics thing, getting back to trademarks and all of that other kind of stuff, if you're going to have a good response or a good answer from all this, you have to have good data. You have to have validated and verified data.
And complete,
Makes sense?
and complete data.
And complete data, absolutely.
Which is one thing that sometimes gets overlooked because there's code involved and you think you have everything you need, but you don't, because you're looking at millions and millions pieces of data that humans are not really, humans cannot look at. So we expect the machine to do it for us. And it's the ethics, in my opinion, is that individual that takes that data and process it sometimes can be lazy enough not to look to see whether I have it all or not, because it just becomes cumbersome and complex. So it's a very high ethical problem.
Yeah, there are a lot of plagiarism suits right now. There are a lot of suits with people grabbing incorrect information. I mean, think about a doctor who goes out there and asks for an answer that gets an incorrect answer. I mean, it could jeopardize someone's life somewhere along the way. And that's an extreme example, but it could happen. Not without the realm of possibilities. And everything, again, if you think about it too, behind the scenes in all of this, there has to be a data lineage. You have to be able to understand and explain where you're getting this data from inside of companies. So the science behind that tracking device, that audit mechanism, explainable AI, explainable data, you have to have the ability to go back and explain to a stakeholder where you got that from and why it's valid or why it isn't valid. A lot of work to be done in this data science area.
Definitely, yeah. I know Ian asked if you could ask a question. Yeah, please come off mute
course.
if you'd like, or put it in the chat, Ian.
I was just curious about the limits of ChatGPT. So I asked it to write a prose essay about a cartoon character,
Okay.
and it wrote it more like a encyclopedic narrative of that character's journey throughout the series. And then I asked it to add rhythm, and that output was more in line with what I would expect from a prose poetry essay. But I just kept adding different variables to its output. Asked it to use more complex vocabulary. Asked it to remove certain names from it, so it only mentioned that specific character. But I guess my question is, and I probably could have found it on my own, but I didn't think about it until I was listening about chat AI. Sorry, rambling. But if I were to go back and ask it to produce the same thing in the same way with the same variables, would it output the same?
That's not guaranteed, as far as I understand it.
Okay.
Again, getting the results you want really boils down to being able to do the correct prompting. So the prompt science is very, very important, because the way you word that whole prompting mechanism will generate the results for you. That's why there's a whole new category of people learning this prompt engineering, so that they can get to what they want and what they need, and adjust it along the way. If you haven't studied a lot of that, I would recommend going back and finding some articles on prompt engineering.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Not that you got bad results. I mean, it's fun to play around with that, but to get to where you want, there are certain syntaxes and ways to ask the question that will get you the results you want. Just like any other programming. Think about it.
Any other questions that you all have off the bat? I know I kind of wanted to see if you could address for our folks who are currently job seeking, Joe, any just general advice that you have for job seekers, especially in the market as it is now.
Absolutely.
Please,
Let me talk about one more thing first. It just popped into my head that I think is really interesting. Then we'll go back and we'll talk about the job market right now. But the advances in artificial intelligence are kind of scary in some ways when it comes to the entertainment and music business.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Have you guys seen all of these things that are on Twitter and Instagram, where Arnold Schwarzenegger's head is stuck on, different movie scenes, or Britney Spears creates a brand new song, or somebody creates a Britney Spears song in her voice with brand new lyrics. I saw a Beatles song that was created by John Lennon in his voice that sounded exactly like a 1964 Beatles song. That's when it's going to get really scary, when you can think about all the stuff that is reproduced through technology and artificial intelligence, and people's images are being used, people's voices are being used, people are monetizing all of that. Where does that line stop? And how do we stop that before it becomes too rampant along the way? I just want to open that up to all of you. What do you think of that? Have any of you seen those, and have any of you created any of those?
I'll do you one better.
Yeah.
On 11labs.io, you can have it record 30 seconds of your voice and then have it speak back to you your voice.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Terrifying. I told my mom, my grandma about it, because I was like, if I call asking for money, it's probably fake,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, think about that.
so I have a bachelor's in the fine arts, which is one of my interests in learning coding. Was because of like stuff like Midjourney, and one of the painting professors uses it in her work. She puts in paintings of floral arrangements, and then she paints over her own and adds her own stuff to it. I think artists are going to take the biggest negative hit from AI, because we're already kind of being pushed out of like a functioning economy, just because art isn't useful. I mean, America is very, very hardwired into everything has to have a use, and so I think it's going to have the most negative impact on artists, at least up front. I think in the future it could aid in artists creating bodies of work and having to practice, but I think the government's going to have to at some point do a hard rewiring of this, how the arts are handled in the US, because right now most artists are only working outside of a regular job. Most artists aren't working as a full-time artist just because people aren't buying art, and something's got to be addressed about that, because that's going to happen soon, because the more AI gets more powerful, people are just going to start. I mean, the Disney's already using AI in their works. The one with Secret Invasion with Samuel L. Jackson. The entire opening sequence is AI. It was fed specific images, and then the AI produced that opening. So it's already harming artists. Even with how cool it is, I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, again, the other day I saw the Mona Lisa, and then behind the Mona Lisa, they showed so many artists that through AI would have painted the Mona Lisa. So it redid the Mona Lisa as Picasso would have done it, as if Mogladani would have done it, as if any other Renaissance artist or modern artist would have done a Mona Lisa and what it would have looked like. I mean, people in the U.S. are sometimes looking for that quick fix, and somebody will buy that art somewhere along the way. Think again about the advances that will come out of that. If you wanted an original painted version of the Mona Lisa, somebody's going to hook it up to a machine that mimics all the brushstrokes, mimics all the nuance of the shading in all of this, and you will have an actual painting of the Mona Lisa hanging on your wall as close as you can get. That's coming somewhere along the way, and hopefully we combat that before it does happen. Totally agree with you. Number of questions out there, and then I'll get to what's going on in the industry and my recommendations. But Allie, can you see some more of the questions?
Yeah, I have James Kuiper has raised their hand if you want to come off mute, James. And I also have to jump here in a minute or so, and Monica is going to take over the FAQ and wrap us up by 7 for us. So yeah, James, go ahead and come off mute for your question. You there, James? Oh, it looks like you might be having some technical difficulties. Yeah. James, we're ready to take your question if you're ready, or you can put it in the chat if you're having technical issues. We can go ahead and move to...
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yep, there you are.
Okay, so
awesome.
Well, my question is, we talked about data with your company, and data is the new gold, they say, or the new Amway of trains back in My question is with security. As far as for your company, what do you see as far as the networking and security protection for that data, from keeping that data safe, and kind of what your eyes are seeing right now as far as in that portion of protecting your data, as even though data is always going to continue to be collected, but but the more data we collect, the more susceptible to cyber attacks. Right now, I've received probably 4 letters from every known doctor's office I've ever been to telling me that, hey, we've just had a data breach. Your information may be compromised. So what do you see as far as your company or other companies, or what you're seeing as what's considered a mainstream as far as cyber protection, as far as data and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And we're seeing data breaches every single day. Every single bank that I talk to is talking about how to prevent fraud somewhere along the way. And there's some excellent peripheral packages out there. A company called CrowdStrike is one of the premier operators of security patches and networking safety devices that will help companies protect all their data. They can write all the privacy laws that they want. They can put all the protection they want in place. But I'll be honest with you, there's some smart hackers out there. Somebody will always find a way to do something that undermines the basic trust of people in data and in organizations. I can say almost every one of us on here probably was a victim of identity theft somewhere along the way, just because you clicked on a website and opened up a phishing attack or whatever. It's going to continue to happen, and it's going to get more sophisticated every day. But the advances, we keep learning every time something like that happens. The only thing I can say is that's another science that if you're looking to get into an industry where you'll have job security, that's another place to go. Cybersecurity, absolutely.
Thank you.
Of course. We see it every day, James, every day. And a lot of our projects get put on hold because of a security breach. We could be running down the road doing any number of different kinds of projects, but a company has a denial of service or something else that happens where there's a data breach or even any of the personal breaches. And then everything gets stuck. So it really puts a cog in the wheel of helping companies move forward. Any other thoughts and questions? So again, if I had to summarize, if you really are looking for jobs, number one, come to VSoft. We'd be happy to help you. Number two, anything in data, anything in analytics, any type of data scientist opportunities, any type of prompt engineering opportunities, any type of classes you can take in AI or machine learning, that will tee you up for having job security in the future, both of those areas, absolutely. Fraud is the last one we talked about in cybersecurity. It's going to continue to happen. People are looking for good people who understand all of that to put on their payrolls. It's going to be an interesting time, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity, and all of it's going to revolve around technology. All of it's going to revolve around data in one aspect or another. And then on the other end of it, if you want to get into the marketing part of it, there are so many things that are happening in the marketing and sales area where, again, you're data mining and you're running marketing campaigns. You are the people who are gaining the actionable insights out of the data that sits in the marketing database warehouses and providing that next step in revenue for companies by mining the data, by monetizing the data. That's happening in every company also.
I actually had a question about that.
Of course.
As far as monetizing the data, do you see a point in time coming where we as individuals will be able to control that monetization?
Absolutely. Yeah. There are checks and balances being put in place right now. There's all kinds of regulations that different people are talking about at points in time. And why shouldn't you? It's your information. It's your data. Somebody else is monetizing it right now and using it because you're on a list somewhere. Why not get the benefit of that somewhere along the way? I hope it happens. Any other thoughts and questions? I know that this was kind of a non-traditional and very non-technical talk today, but I hope it was a little bit different for you and gave you some insight and also gave you some hope, because there are going to be many, many opportunities out there.
Is there anything in place that would stop someone like who already has a lot of resources and a lot of knowledge about AI from using it to gain more than they should, or have more than any one person should have access to?
Well, the only one I know is Dr. Evil. And he's been planning on taking over the world for a long time, and I think he's diversified into hacking now and data breaches. I'm making a joke, but honestly, I don't know.
Is that possible though, or is that just kind of fear mongering?
Well, everything is possible today. I mean, it's a scary thought, but who knows what's going to come around the corner next? Some of it's fear mongering, but there's always a hint of reality in all of that, and it's very possible. Like I said the other day, these guys that created ChatGPT and artificial intelligence, the pioneers, they're very scared of what's going to happen anywhere along the way, and what the possibilities are without all of these checks and balances in place. Everybody's running off in all these different directions without answering properly the ethics questions, the copywriting questions, all of that stuff that's behind the scenes. Again, this is the new sexy thing. And with the new sexy thing, everybody's running off to be, forefront of the marketplace right now. Scary.
James Kuiper.
One last question.
Yes.
As far as the hiring, I know right now in the tech field, it's getting to more where you have more opportunities if you don't have a bachelor or a master's degree. Just from your experience, are you seeing people getting hired that have stackable certificates or associates compared to PhDs? I know some really fancy jobs out there, you have to have like a PhD and you have to have like 10 years experience, but are you seeing any jobs out there that don't have bachelor's or master's that's
yeah,
people
absolutely.
are actually getting hired?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. There are PhDs that are getting hired into data scientist positions, but there are also people who are very talented that have either learned by themselves or some certificate opportunities along the way. Given the opportunity to prove yourself in front of somebody in the interview process, take that advantage, take that opportunity, because coding is coding, no matter where you learned it or how you learned it. I'll give you an example. My son taught himself C++ coding when he was in high school. He wanted to be a video game designer. He now works for Electronic Arts. He's the lead stress tester on the online gaming. And he went to a non-traditional school, a school called Full Sail University in Florida. He did get a degree, a Bachelor of Science. But again, take the leap. If you're really interested in something like this, by all means, use whatever you have in your hand to be able to get that certification so that you can get a meaningful job.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
I typed another question in the chat, but it has not been read. And my question is regarding, you mentioned that you might collaborate with U of L. Would you also be part of coming up with a curriculum for either degrees or for certifications or for just classes, or would you just let them choose?
Yeah, it's not our responsibility to do that. They will continue to do that. They're advancing and developing that as we speak. And it's changing every semester based upon what the demands are in the marketplace. Now, what we provide to them is, again, this real life situation. We're telling them what we hear we need as business people in the marketplace and what the businesses are telling us. Every other week, I have a meeting with my staff. That is a reverse meeting. Instead of me talking about the solutions that we are going to take to market, this meeting really revolves around our salespeople. And the question is, what are you hearing in the field? What are the problems you're being asked to solve right now? And what are the solutions and technologies and skill sets you need to take to your customers that we can develop in-house? I think we're doing that with the university and helping them understand what real life situations are again, and how we can help place their students based upon these real life situations.
Thank you.
Monica, anything else?
Let's see, I only have the end of the chat from where I joined. I don't see any other questions here, just a couple of comments. This is awesome. We've been so busy asking if we could. We never stopped and thought about if we should.
Yeah,
Does anyone
good
else have
question.
anything else they would like to share or any final questions before we wrap up? Dogs or
Dogs.
cats?
Dogs. By far, dogs, no question. I am available to any of you. I don't know if you'd like to share my contact information, Monica, to everybody that's been on here. I'm happy to be a resource for you. I'm happy just to chat with you one-on-one. Next time I'm in Louisville, feel free to reach out to me and come to our office. I'd be happy to show you around. And any coaching that I can help you with, I'm available to you. I would be happy to do that.
When are you coming back?
I will be back. Let me get my, not this week, but I will be back in, let's see here real quick, grab my calendar. I'm coming back in on Monday, October 23rd, and I'll be there through Thursday, the 26th. I fly back on Friday. So yes, that whole week I'll be in Louisville.
Monica,
let
I
me know.
want his information. I want his information.
Most definitely.
Happy to
When
do
we
that.
share the contents of the meeting, we'll share the contact information as well. Does anyone else have any further questions? If not, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Joe, thank you for your time.
You're
This has
welcome.
been
Thank
really
you for having
fascinating
me.
conversation.
Best of luck to all of you. And again, don't feel uncomfortable reaching out. I do appreciate that. Hope it was valuable to you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.